but also what is happening right now in Palestine. That we need a ceasefire now, and we need to end funding the unconditioned, unchecked funding, military aid to Israel that is using our tax dollars to commit a genocide. So that is the vehicle. Uncommitted is the vehicle to which we are going to do that, and hopefully we will have the thousands and thousands of uncommitted votes on February 27th to be able to send that message to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. I want to hand it off to Abbas to say a few words and whatever I missed. So go ahead. Abbas is our political strategist on the campaign.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It feels like a privilege to be sharing space with you all in the midst of what I know you feel this too, it's a very, very difficult time for our community. That's an understatement. Genocide is not easy to read about. It's not easy to hear about. It's certainly not easy to live stream. It feels harder to live stream and to consume the images that we're having to consume, knowing that it is our taxpayer funding that is being used to kill children indiscriminately. Over 13,000 Palestinian children dead. And so, in a moment like this, we as a community, and I don't mean just young people, I don't mean just Arab and Muslim Americans, I do mean a community of people all around our country that we're seeing organize each other in circles just like this one, around the idea that never-ending funding for war is not appropriate, it's not necessary, it's actually inexcusable. It actually has to stop. And so there are real forces at play right now that are convincing our president to embrace Netanyahu's genocidal actions. And we also are a force sitting here in this circle, and we can decide how to use our own power. The other forces that are at play are the pro-war forces. It's hard to imagine, but yes, there are people who profit, who make money. Every bomb that is dropped, every child that is killed, every community that is leveled, they make money off of that. And then they turn around and give a whole lot of money to presidential campaigns, like President Biden's. And so he starts to think, oh, okay, well, my campaign fundraising is going up. Sure, some people are not happy about what's happening in Gaza, but it won't cost me the presidency. Unfortunately for President Biden, we, people here in Michigan, voters of conscience, we are not people who take genocide lightly. We are people who understand that the humanity of the child in Gaza is no different than our own humanity. If I understand myself to be human, then I understand that that child in Gaza deserves to live. Their mother, their father, their aunt, the worker that they encounter at the bakery, the mere existence of the bakery, all of those things ought to continue to exist, and they've been decimated. They've been obliterated. And so what we know here in Michigan is that there is a political cost. There's a political cost, and we need to ensure that there's a political cost for the unmitigated funding of genocide. And we know that here, with this Listen to Michigan campaign, we didn't start this campaign because we're super interested in every Democratic presidential primary. We started this campaign because it comes out of the organizing we've already been doing since October and since before October, to end the occupation, to end the apartheid conditions that have resulted in the genocide that we're witnessing now. And since October, the modern day anti-war movement that we're experiencing in our country that is, yes, led by Palestinian Americans, by Arab Americans, by young voters, by Black Americans, by Jewish Americans, that movement is united under the banner of ceasefire now. And we've been doing everything we can to get Biden's attention. We've been protesting. We've been to the phone banks. We're calling our representatives. We're calling the White House. And it seems Biden isn't hearing us or is choosing to ignore us. It certainly feels like his White House is choosing at times to demean the ceasefire, to wag its finger at us, to say, hey, I think the press secretary called the members of Congress who were working towards a ceasefire. You guys remember the words that were used? It was something like disgusting or unacceptable. I know she used the word wrong. They're wrong. We're just, calling for a ceasefire to save that kid in Gaza's life, that kid's life could be saved if President Biden stands up and calls for an immediate permanent ceasefire. And we happen to be Americans here in Michigan who know that President Biden has lost a lot of that. He's lost people here in Michigan because he's taken on Netanyahu's genocidal policies as his own. And in doing so, President Biden has lost so much support that he is risking handing the presidency in November to Donald Trump and his white supremacist buddies. Now listen, I am a survivor of war myself. I was 15 years old in 2006 in Lebanon. I was a child. I could have been killed by US-funded Israeli bombs. I am not unique in this community in that experience. So many people here in southeastern Michigan have survived themselves US-funded wars. In Yemen, in Iraq, all across the region, in Palestine certainly. And so I know how urgent it is for us to save lives. I know that it, honestly, maybe you all feel this, I feel offended. The number of people who are saying, but what about November? But what about November? I'm happy to talk about November. Can you stop killing the kids? It's 13,000 of them. When we started saying in October, we got to stop killing the kids, you were saying, but what about next November? But what about next November? You should have listened to us then. Now President Biden not only has the blood of those children on his hands because he's continuing to fund this war, but also he's lost key supporters. He needs our votes if he wants to win. The Democrats need our votes if someone from the Democratic Party is going to win. And for me, I'm a survivor of war, but I was a staffer on January 6th. I worked on Capitol Hill, worked for Congressman Andy Levin, Congressman Rashida Tlaib, both of whom support this campaign, by the way, and want us to vote uncommitted on February 27th, and to tell at least 5 of our friends when we leave here. I didn't ask them about the 5 thing, but I can speak for them at least for this moment. They want us to vote uncommitted. I worked for both of them. I worked for Congressman Cori Bush as well. I worked on Capitol Hill for 5 years. One of the days that I worked, I survived the January 6th insurrectionist, white supremacist attack on our Capitol. I know how dangerous Donald Trump is. I don't think Donald Trump is a good guy. I don't think he gives a about me or anyone who I love. Okay? But what I also know is that President Biden has the power right now to call for a ceasefire. And if he wants to prevent Donald Trump from getting to the White House, it's on him to change his policy. And so we have a real opportunity. The way we win is by being accountable to one another, okay? I've seen it everywhere that I've worked. If we are in community with one another, if we show up for one another, they can spend $100 million on TV ads and they won't change our mind because we're accountable to one another. And when I look each of you in the eye, we know that we're not gonna leave that kid in Gaza behind. We're not gonna betray that kid. As much as they want us to turn our attention and to distract us and to say, hey, but you should just shut up now, stop saying bad things about President Biden, we're not gonna let up the pressure for a ceasefire. Right now, that means voting uncommitted on February 27th. We know the pressure is working. We've heard from people within the White House saying they're scared about our movement, and we need to grow our power. What the other side wants is for us not to vote on Tuesday. What the other side wants is for us to say, you know what, we give up altogether. No, we have power as regular people accountable to each other. And we're gonna flex that power on Tuesday. And make a whole bunch of people to vote uncommitted. We're gonna grow our power. We're gonna grow our movement to achieve a ceasefire as one more step towards a free Palestine. If you believe in a free Palestine, let me hear you say free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Again, free Palestine.
Free
Palestine.
Come Wednesday, I want us to be able to say, Michigan is a pro-Palestinian state. Don't you dare come to Michigan with that Netanyahu bullshit ever again. That's what I want to see. The way we get to do that is by every single one of us telling as many people as we know and love that this is urgent. Not a lot of people know that there's an election on Tuesday. We know. Do I have your commitment to tell 5 people when you leave here about the need to vote uncommitted? If I have your commitment, I need to hear you say yes.
Yes.
If I have your commitment, I need to hear you say free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Okay, we're gonna do this. And there's early voting, yes, of course, up until, from now until Sunday. So I appreciate you all being here. I genuinely do believe that we've already won when we organize like this, and every single vote that we get will be a win for justice and for peace and against war. And I'm glad to be in this movement with you. I'd love to kick it back to Leila.
Thank you so much. Abbas made a lot of great points as to our movement and the growth of our movement. And I just want to let folks know that we launched this campaign February 6th was our launch date. And today, we've already made 100,000 calls in Michigan to talk to voters about voting uncommitted. And this campaign has grown beyond, Southeast Michigan. We are getting calls from the UP, from all over, and we've gotten amazing endorsements to this campaign. So we are big, we're huge, all eyes are on Michigan right now. And like Abbas said, Wednesday morning, we want to say to the rest of the nation that Michigan is pro-Palestine and anti-war and pro-ceasefire. So with each of you here, we hope that you will talk to your friends, you will talk to your family members, because we are a voting bloc. You can create a voting bloc within your own friends, family members, reaching out to your coworkers, and just continue to grow this movement. I'm going to introduce now our guest speaker, who is a survivor of the 1948 NAKBA, displacement of Palestinians from their ancestral homes. So I introduce Dr. May here, who is going to be speaking to you guys.
You want me to talk from here?
Talk where you are comfortable. If you want us to, okay.
I'll try.
If I might, Dr. May, please come join us in the circle. We want to make sure that everybody.
I'm so happy to have seen the circuit grow and everybody come. I'm very happy to see you all. None of you have been my students at Wayne State, but I taught for 30 years there. So your mothers might have passed through me. I am a Palestinian, full, both sides, all sides, and my heart is very Palestinian. I am voting uncommitted, so that Abbas feels at ease now. I'm not the only survivor here. My friend came to visit me. She is also a survivor of the NAKBA. She was born in Jaffa. I was born in Nazareth. You know where Nazareth is? My family is related to northern Palestine. My family goes back to the 18th and 19th century from the period of Zahir al-Omar. I'm a historian. I'm a social historian, so history was always very important for me to know where people come from and how significant is the links. So I feel very strongly related to northern Palestine. Archives, Ottoman history, all are very important in our story. They tell us the facts. And as a scholar, I had to go through all archives to do that. However, my personal experience goes back to the British Mandate period, when Palestine was under the control of the British. In 1948, I was 3 years old. I was born in 1944 and experienced all the trauma of 1948, the NAKBA, catastrophe of the Palestinian people is very much part of my life. My earliest experiences is trauma, unease, dislocation, being moved from one place to the other. The period is very telling on my life and on the kind of life I chose for myself. Wars, hardship, difficulties, I saw it all around me, in the eyes of my parents, in the eyes of my family. Even as a child, I could sense the kind of hardship, dislocation, and insecurity. We first went to Lebanon because it was easier. This is how we were thrown out of our house, of our land. We went to Lebanon for a little while, then settled back in Jordan. So my early youth was continuously in alienating setups where I felt I didn't belong. Vulnerability, I can always remember it early on. I was vulnerable human being. It's not being in your setting where everybody around me had a similar feeling. And today, when I talk to my generation, such as my friend and others, they all have gone through similar feelings. It's alienating to be traumatized, to be outside your own setting. Both as an individual and as a community, I felt it. It was not only hardship on me as an individual. I knew I was part of a group of people who were not accepted, even in Lebanon, even in Jordan. You had to negotiate where you stood. how you found your spots, and how you manage your life. It was a motto. The issue I shared is that there is an injustice, and injustice has been committed. Even as a child, I knew why. What's the reason? And this was a motto that people around me expressed similarly. It's not new. I knew this is not fair. Why? A people as a whole were treated in this fashion. Because I felt we had a struggle to do, ongoing path of our struggle and alienation, our dealing with injustice and grievances. The stories we dealt with is how people dealt with massacres. These were stories that were being circulated. When the village of so-and-so saw the massacres, when Dar Yassin happened, when Pantura happened, when so many villages saw grievances of massacres, we were all part of it. It became our ethos, our ethic. We understood that we have grievances that are common, that are the same, and they all took place, many of these massacres before 48, but continued after. And what you see today, what you hear today about what is going on in Gaza is a continuation. The NAKBA is on. It has never ended. They used methods of encroaching NAKBAs on us. And that's why you should be aware that what we are living, what we are experiencing is not new. So you have to deal with it with clear policies of refusal. We are equal to everybody. Justice is our due. All Palestinians have experienced the details I'm talking about. Other than massacres, dislocations, dispersal, continued movement from one. I can only remember moving from one house to the other. No settlement, unsettled life. Even though I was 3 years old when things did happen, I can tell you I was aware. We knew what was going on. We knew that we have the first thing when, as a child, I was asked, what did you feel? The most important thing I said, I needed to be quiet. I don't want to draw attention to myself. I'm vulnerable. I can be hurt. My father can be hurt. I saw it in the eyes of my parents. They were struggling. And this is the story of one representing the many. You see, at our doorstep, I saw the camps, the Palestinian camps. I lived in Jordan, Jabal al-Hussein. Next door to me was a camp of Palestinians who suffered when it rained. Their tents were completely obliterated. When it was hot, they were stuck with all sorts of insects and animals. Horrible life, horrible fate. People who came from their villages It was an experience. And immediately, I began to identify. This is where you begin to understand who you are, what you are, a human being going through this experience, you identify. Miserable conditions of the Palestinians were mine too. Even if I didn't live everything they lived, I identified with them. You can't ignore it. It's too close to you. I remember very well my mother one night when it was raining. She came, my mother was a very humane person. She came, she took off our blankets, and my father said, "Where are you going? The kids are cold." She told him, "Go see the people who are being drowned by the water, by the rain in the camp." This is when I understood it's by feeling with the other that you become part of the issue.
Yeah.
Thus, I grew up in this atmosphere I'm telling you about. A Palestinian identifying with the Palestinians, as did my generation. Their stories, their villages, I knew their names, their food, their distress, their joys, the few joys were also part of my history and my culture. Their sense of desperation, erasure because they're being erased. Their stories were not being told, but I understood by identifying with them. Their history were clear. They represented the NAKBA, the catastrophe. The disaster was stamped into us. It's in our psyche. Palestinian refugees are a powerful source of information. They are the voice demanding justice and rectification before now, which while a genocide is going on, they told us that before, way before. It is the voice of the Palestinian refugees that was clear, telling us this is happening, be aware. Their experience was very, very important, and I became, as an individual, very aware. They were told in song. I remember crying when they sang the songs in the villages. And they told us in their literature. This is how they survived. This is how they sustained their resistance. They still demand justice in spite of continued and recurring NAKBAs. They still demand the same thing, justice. The NAKBA that are imposed on them collectively and individually. Their stories, the stories of the Palestinian refugees, is the living history. The importance of their collections, their archives, and this is what I looked for. This is why I became a scholar. I began to look for the origins of the stories. I went and delved into their history, into their experience, their testimonials. And this was the background of my life, which has impacted me, the NAKBA and my experience. I'm sorry, am I taking more than
No.
my time?
We're enjoying.
Huh? Okay, I'll continue. The NAKBA, it's experience. I cannot tell you how it feels in my heart, but it's constricting my heart. But it impacted me to choose 3 paths in life. One of them is my identity. It sealed my identity as a Palestinian, as part of this community who is hurting, who is in pain, who needs justice and justification. It sealed me. It gave me resolve and determination. I am what I am. I am the result of my family, of my background, of my country, of my story. And I remain so. Their experience is mine. Their need to justice is mine. I fight the same way they do. I seek solutions. I met the reaction to me as a Palestinian when I sought employment anywhere in the West or even in the Arab world. Don't think they are better treated. This is where I understood what it means to be a Palestinian. I'm sorry, people don't
worries.
know I'm here. But basically, you learn what bias is. When do you think we can shut it down? Thank you. So basically, when you are what you are, and you are convinced of your commitment and your belief, you go ahead. You do what you have to do. Whenever I was asked, I expressed what I was. And when my story was sublimated, I was working at Wayne State for 30 years, teaching, where there were many anti-Palestinians, Zionists in the administration, who tried to stifle my voice. I learned how to keep my voice in different ways. My story was there. Up to today, I have students who follow me because they believe in my cause. They believe that I am genuine, that I am telling the story as it is. I don't lie. These are my experiences. And I am committed to that. I have enough colleagues that have made a difference in my life, that even without being influenced by me, themselves have seen the story and follow it. So the NAKBA has made me what I am, a Palestinian wholehearted. Another aspect that the NAKBA has taught me is that I have to know my story well. First thing I did, I studied Hebrew. I went to Oxford University to do a PhD. I wrote the history of Haifa. I became an academic, learning because they tell us you're not straight. I was told at UCLA, clearly, no, you are biased because I'm telling the real story. So I became an academic. I advise you to do that. I studied and worked, but that experience also taught me something very important, where I understood the colloquial history of Palestine, the little people story, the village stories. And that was the third aspect that it illuminated for me. As a survivor of the Nakba, I became a collector of oral history. I collected hundreds of interviews of Palestinians. I went to all the camps in Lebanon, to most of the camps in Jordan, to many in Syria, and any Palestinian I could catch on the street. And today, I have a huge collection of Palestinian oral history, which I donated to a university that will be put online for every one of you to listen. And it is not yet out. In 6 months to a year, it will be put online as a collection under my name of oral history. Testimonies of people who told about what happened in 48. It can never be forgotten. We will never stop telling. That's why I felt I was doing what my makeup made me do. And that's why I find it so strange that our president would veto a ceasefire. People are dying. Over 30,000 has already died. What more? I completely condone the article by Abdullah Hamoud, the mayor of Dearborn, yesterday in the New York Times. You should read it. We definitely are angry. We are definitely betrayed. And definitely we should vote uncommitted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. May. It was truly an honor to have you here tonight and to hear from you. I think we all just need a moment.
It is an emotional thing for me, you have to understand. It is not, I don't go around talking like that. But it is important that you all understand that we Palestinians, particularly the generation of the Nakba, seeing our end very soon, we would have wanted to see a solution to our people. Instead, we see a disaster in Gaza that really takes my heart.
I want to thank Dr. May again for being here. And thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Leila.
So thank you. I think it's more than important than ever to uplift voices like Dr. May and uplift the voices and the stories of Palestinians and Gaza right now, and remind everyone that Uncommitted is not just about politics. It's not just about an election. We are using Uncommitted as a humanitarian vote to save lives. We're using this vote to tell Joe Biden that we believe in humanity and that we need to have an immediate permanent ceasefire right now in order to save lives. We are already over 30,000 lives lost, millions displaced, whole entire families gone from the registry. And so I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank Dr. May again so much for being here. And I will ask once again that, as Abbas mentioned, after leaving here today, if you haven't voted already, to please go out, early vote at your clerk's office or your early vote center in your city. Ask 5 of your friends to vote Uncommitted. Talk to your family members, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues. This is not just about politics. This is about saving human lives. I'm going to pass it over to Dima, who is our field director, relational director, and she has some information to share.
Thank you, Rayla. I had a whole speech prepared, like talking points and everything. But I don't think I can do it because this is very real. My name is Dima Hassan. I'm Palestinian. My grandma is a 3 of my grandparents are 1948 survivors. And I was raised in Syria. I very much, Dr. May, thank you so much for sharing. I really feel I'm a 3rd generation Palestinian. I've never been to Palestine. I only got my American passport like a few months ago. So I've been traveling with what you call my whole life, which means it's like literally a document that tells most people, most countries that they don't want you there. And one of my earliest memories was seeing the killing, the murder of Muhammad Dirra, who was a 9-year-old child who was killed during the Intifada. And I remember, like my whole life, my whole teenagehood, childhood, I was just seeing my people losing. Like every single thing that happened was us dying, losing, and dying, and losing, and dying, and losing. And it seemed like it never mattered. When I first moved to the US, people didn't even really understand anything about Palestine. And the end of 2023, and the beginning of 2024 is the first time in my life that I have seen people besides just Palestinians and Arabs care about Palestine at all. This is to me, people being out in the streets was a revolutionary thing because nobody ever cared about us. And this campaign is a testament to that. Like the Uncommitted campaign is a testament that people for the first time decided that our lives actually matter in some way or shape or form. And that is revolutionary for us. The Uncommitted campaign is not, as I said, is a testament to that. And it's not about President Biden. It's not about politics. It's about a ceasefire. It's about stopping money for our, like, killing, literal killing. There is late stage genocide happening in Gaza right now. Like, they have cornered everybody in one corner, and now they're being killed and starved and bombed. And those are my people. And that's always how it's been. So the Uncommitted campaign is honestly a signal. It's a signal to the world that being like progressive or liberal or whatever, except for Palestine, is no longer acceptable. It's a sign that like in Michigan and all around the world, honestly, like you're seeing people say, hey, you can't just kill those people. You can't just kill Palestinians. Tell you a little bit about what's happening in this campaign. This campaign was put together in 2 weeks. In 6 days, we made 100,000 calls. 60% of the people that we talked to said, oh, I didn't know about Uncommitted, but I support Palestine, and I support Palestinians, and I want to go and vote. Tell me how to. We have 5 days left of this election. After tonight, there's only 5 days left. And I need actually, it's a responsibility and a duty to each one of us to actually pick up that phone and have a conversation, because of random people that we are calling, we are getting 1 out of every 2 is actually pro-Palestine, actually wants a ceasefire. They want a stop to this unconditional aid to Israel. They want our policies to reflect care for people. So I'm actually gonna ask you to do something right now. I want each one of you to pull up your phone. And I want you to go to listentomichigan.com/take-action. listentomichigan.com/take-action. On that website, you will see phone banks and text banks happening every single day, day and night. From today, and from till I guess tomorrow morning is the first that you could join until election day. I beg you to actually sign up for at least one phone bank or one text bank if you don't want to talk to people, and like make those calls. You'll be trained on how to do them. It's not very difficult, and I've honestly been so inspired by people caring for the first time ever, seemingly to me at least. And us sending this message is really, really, really important. It's not just about the election. It's not just about like making a statement. It's about actual lives, actual people that are starving and dying. It's about actual humanitarian aid trucks that are parked for miles and not allowed in to help people. It's about Palestinians feeling in this world that there is somebody who's listening. It's about the world realizing that being whatever the fuck except for Palestine is not acceptable anymore. This is a turning point, and we will free Palestine within our lifetime. So I urge you to make that call and keep pushing on. Thank you.
I would also encourage folks, besides the text banking and besides the phone banking, how you can plug in to Uncommitted, besides going to the ballot box and voting Uncommitted, is that we need volunteers for the day, primary day, to be at the polls. So if that is something you are also interested in, you can sign up using our volunteer link on the website, listentomichigan.com. I want to also thank, we had our coffee donated by Cool Beans, and we want to thank them also for donating that. And again, I thank you all for being here. And Abbas, you have a few words that you want to.
I was gonna ask, where will we be watching the results come in on Tuesday?
Yeah, so
Everybody's
on
invited.
Tuesday, we are having a watch party, get together, celebration, on Tuesday, February 27th starting at 7 PM at the Arab American National Museum Annex. So everybody is welcome. We're gonna be watching the results of the primary there, celebrating the work all the work that has happened in this campaign. And hopefully we'll be celebrating the thousands and thousands of uncommitted votes to send that message to President Joe Biden that we demand, Michigan voters demand a permanent ceasefire now.
Also, I would love to end on a note of Dr. May, Allah yatawwal bi'umrik, may God extend your life. Inshallah, we do see a free Palestine in your lifetime. I haven't had the chance to meet you before. I feel incredibly honored and inspired by your story, and want to tell you a feeling that's on my heart that I suspect a lot of people here feel too. We love you, and we're grateful to you for sharing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You were the code before.